There's something fascinating about Friday the 13th. Most people have been taught that it's unlucky, a strange superstition, something ominous, something to fear. But I want to ask a different question. What if Friday the 13th isn't unlucky at all? What if the real question is what power got buried beneath the story? Because when we start looking a little deeper into the symbolism of this date, something remarkable appears. And first, let's talk about the number 13. In nature, 13 shows up in connection with cycles of the moon. In one solar year, the moon completes roughly 13 lunar cycles. For most of human history, people lived by these rhythms, planting, harvesting, and tracking time through the sky. So the number 13 became connected with cycles, fertility, and the feminine rhythms of life. Now let's look at the day itself, Friday. Friday is named after the Norse god Freyja, or goddess associated with love, beauty, fertility, and magic. In Roman tradition, Friday was connected with Venus, the planet of love, attraction, harmony, and value. So already we have something interesting. Friday carries the energy of Venus, and the number 13 carries the rhythm of the moon, Venus and the moon. Two symbols that many ancient cultures associated with the sacred feminine, the divine feminine. But the story gets even more fascinating when we look up at the sky, because Venus itself creates one of the most beautiful patterns in the heavens. Astronomically, Venus and Earth are both orbiting the sun, but Venus moves a little differently than we do. So very often, Venus lines up between Earth and the sun. And when that happens, astrologers call that a Venus star point. It's simply the moment when Venus and the sun meet in the sky. And now here's where it gets magical. Each time Venus meets the sun, that meeting happens in a slightly different place in the zodiac. And if you were to mark those points over time, something incredible appears in the sky. After 5 of these alignments over about 8 years, those points form a perfect 5-pointed star, a pentagram. The sky literally draws a star using the planet Venus. This pattern is something called the Venus rose, a flower-like geometry traced in the heavens. So the cosmos itself is drawing sacred geometry, not because humans invented it, but because the movements of the planets naturally create the pattern. And what's even more fascinating is that these Venus star points don't happen randomly in the zodiac. They appear in 5 repeating areas of the sky, almost like 5 stations around a wheel. And right now in our era, these points tend to appear near the signs near Aries, Gemini, Leo, Scorpio, and Capricorn. And every time Venus meets the sun, it moves to the next station in this cycle. And over time, those 5 points create the full star. So Venus is moving through the zodiac like a cosmic artist, drawing a star across the sky. After about 8 years, the pattern repeats again. The same flower begins to bloom once more, which means the sky is not random. It's rhythmic, it's patterned, it's mathematical, like a rose. And in the same kind of geometry appears everywhere in nature, in flowers and seashells, in spirals and galaxies. Ancient traditions often express this idea with a simple phrase, as above, so below. The patterns of the cosmos reflect themselves in the patterns of life. And when we look at Venus, the planet associated with beauty, harmony, attraction, and relationship, we find a celestial dance repeating again and again, a cosmic flower opening in the sky every 8 years. But astrology takes this one step further, because every time Venus meets the sun, every time we have a Venus star point, it also happens within a specific zodiac story, a specific archetype, a specific moment in time. And right now we're approaching one of those turning points. We are moving towards the vernal equinox, a moment when the sun crosses the celestial equator and day and night return to balance. The equinox, equal day and night, is one of the greatest turning points of the year, a cosmic reset. And just before that shift, we move through the final waters of Pisces. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It is the ocean. It's the dream field. It's the collective unconscious. And in this moment, we are also experienced a new moon in Pisces. This is going to be happening on March 19th. And new moons are seed moments, moments where something invisible begins to take form. So if we're standing at a threshold between Pisces and Aries, between dream and action, between the ocean and the spark of new life, and right now Venus herself is moving through a very powerful phase in her cycle, astronomically and astrologically, Venus moves through two great journeys in the sky. Sometimes she appears as the evening star, shining after sunset, and sometimes she appears as the morning star, rising before the sun. But between these two phases, there's a hidden moment in the cycle, a descent, a crossing between worlds, a time when Venus moves into what astrologers sometimes call the underworld phase of her journey. And this is the moment when Venus passes between the earth and the sun. Symbolically, it's the moment of composting, of returning to the soil, of regeneration beneath the surface. The visible light of Venus disappears for a moment, and something unseen begins to transform. In mythic language, this is the descent of the goddess, the journey into the underworld, the place where endings become the fertile ground for new beginnings. So while Venus is moving into Aries, the first sign in the zodiac, the spark of initiation, she is also moving through this deeper regenerative phase in her cycle, which means this moment carries both energies at once, the courage of Aries and the composting wisdom of the underworld, something dissolving, something regenerating, something preparing to be reborn. And all of this is unfolding as the sun prepares to cross the equinox line, day and night balancing, winter turning towards spring, the cosmic clock resetting. But here's the deeper layer, the Scorpio layer, because the Venus star, the beautiful five-pointed pattern that repeats every 8 years, does not stay in the same place in the zodiac forever. Very slowly, over centuries, the entire pattern begins to shift. It rotates. It drifts through the zodiac. It's almost as if the cosmic flower is turning. While Venus repeats the same 5 points at every 8 years, these points gradually migrate through the zodiac over generations, which means different eras of human history experience the Venus cycle in different parts of the sky, different archetypes, different stories. It's like the heavens move through long chapters of Venus consciousness, different ages of Venus, different expressions of love, beauty, and value. So when we look up at the Venus star tracing its patterns again and again, we're not just witnessing a repeating orbit, we're witnessing a long unfolding story, a story written in geometry, a story written in cycles, a story written across centuries. And this is where astrology begins to feel less like prediction and, again, more like pattern recognition, because the sky moves, the planets dance, the geometry repeats, and humanity slowly learns to recognize the rhythms of that dance, just like the rose of Venus blooming again and again in the heavens. And so next time you hear someone say Friday the 13th is unlucky, remember that the planet of love is quietly drawing a star across the sky, a star that has been repeating for thousands and thousands of years, a flower of geometry blooming above us, reminding us that the universe moves in patterns, and we are a part of that pattern too. We've got this, Soul Fam. So much love.